going to start with the 5 biggest stories from week 5. Number 1 has to come out of the Los Angeles Chargers. Scary one here for the Chargers. First of all, playing without both Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, they went way more run heavy than they have in the first 4 games of the season. They go more run centric, conservative approach. They lose 27-10 to the Commanders. More importantly, for our purposes, during this game, they lose Omarion Hampton, the impressive round 1 rookie running back, to an ankle injury. Obviously, they're already without Najee Harris. Hampton lands on IR. Will miss at least 4 games. Now, Ian Rappaport is saying that Omarion Hampton has a very good chance to be back right after that 4-game window. But a lot of concern here around the Chargers, Evan. Thoughts on their loss and the Omarion Hampton injury?
Yeah, they're just falling apart from an injury standpoint. I mean, we've talked about Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater and now Omarion Hampton. Mekhi Becton, again, missed time in week 5 with a hand or wrist or finger injury. They're missing Khalil Mack on defense. I mean, they started off looking like maybe this is the year that the Chargers take the leap that people have been expecting from them for a long time. And, now they're taking, it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. With Omarion Hampton, this is such a huge loss for them because he had become a true every down back. He was catching passes. He had 17 receptions over his previous 3 games. And now they're down to Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins. And when asked about his backfield, Jim Harbaugh was like, and we're going to look to add other guys, which that tells you right there that they are not sold on Hassan Haskins or Kamani Vidal carrying the load. And it's going to be interesting to see how they change the offense, because I think the offense could change again. They were very pass heavy to begin with. They were run heavy this past week. Now do they go, if they want to feature Kamani Vidal, who I think that has a lot more upside than Hassan Haskins, I think you go back to throwing the football, quick game, and featuring your big time 3 receiver set.
If you had to make an ad off the wire, it would be Vidal over Haskins for you, I assume.
Yeah, I think that Hassan Haskins will be the favorite for carries and probably goal line work, but Kamani Vidal gives you more upside, certainly a better athlete. Hassan Haskins, of course, has the history with Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, but we know that he's a plotter, and Kamani Vidal maybe has some untapped upside. I still think that they bring in another guy.
Yeah.
I think the best news here for people that have Omarion Hampton, and I have a lot of Omarion Hampton, is that it seems like his return is expected to be very close to when his 4 weeks on IR end.
Yeah.
Like he should be back after 4 weeks.
So after Omarion Hampton went down in this game, it was roughly an even split between Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins, which I thought was a pretty good sign for Vidal. There are options out there, Evan. I don't know what you think about these guys. I know what I think, but they also have Amar Johnson, by the way. Rookie Amar Johnson is on the practice squad. Maybe he gets promoted. But to Evan's point, they are talking about looking outside the organization. Gus Edwards has a long history with this coaching staff. I don't know that Gus Edwards can really play anymore. Jamal Williams, Evan's boy from the few years ago, 100-1 touchdown bet. He's out there. Zeke Elliott is out there. And then on the trade front, we've talked about a potential for an Alvin Kamara trade. Also, with Tyrone Tracy getting healthy, maybe Devin Singletary becomes available. And now that Judkins and Sampson are up to speed, maybe Jerome Ford is available as well. Do you think that there's possibility, Evan, for a Alvin Kamara trade or anything else outside the organization here for the Chargers?
By the way, Amar Johnson went to my high school.
Wow.
I don't know. I think that the latest, like Underhill, he even put this out on Twitter, that he is skeptical of an Alvin Kamara trade at this point because he thinks that Alvin Kamara wants to play the rest of it, wants to just play his entire career as a Saint, and that if he does get traded, he would rather retire than play for another team. So that kind of throws a wrench into those plans. I don't know. I mean, is Jamal Williams at this point any better than Hassan Haskins? I don't know. I think that they'll give it a week, see how Kamani Vidal and Hassan Haskins do, and then maybe hit the waiver wire. I'm kind of rooting for Kamani Vidal. I mean, I think he's got some potential.
Okay. Other part of this was the wide receiver stuff. So Justin Herbert, in a game they lost, only got off 29 pass attempts in this game. It's okay to have 3 target earning wide receivers when you're dropping back 40 plus times. But when Herbert only gets off 29 attempts, we end up with things like Quentin Johnston, only 4 targets in this game. So I just want to be clear, if they go back to a run heavy approach, and honestly, given their running back situation now, I don't think they should or will. They need to put the ball in Justin Herbert's hands, even though it's scary with Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater not on the field. But man, if he's not going to drop back a ton, it's going to be tough because Ladd, QJ, and Keenan are all pretty good at earning targets. Last note for me on this game, Will Dissly was out again. Arande Gadsden, 25 routes. Tyler Conklin, just 12. And so you can see how they like Gadsden as a pass catcher here more than Tyler Conklin. Let's go to the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins got up 17-0 on the Panthers on Sunday, and then they blow the game, lose 27-24 to fall to 1-4. The big topic here to me was this is the first game without Tyreek Hill in a long time. How would it look? And honestly, the wide receiver stuff went pretty much as I expected. Jalen Waddle became the alpha, 25% target share here, getting some of the Tyreek stuff, getting scheme stuff, being the first read. I mean, we talked about on Sunday, on Friday, even last Tuesday, how excited we were for Jalen Waddle. And we got a ton of pushback from people being like, Jalen Waddle sucks. He can't stay healthy. He's a pretty good player, man. And then, of course, you also have Devon Achane with the crazy receiving role. 7 targets here, goes 630 and a touchdown. The surprise to me, all that stuff was expected. The Waddle bump, the Achane. The surprise, Evan, was Darren Waller. I mean, Darren Waller goes from like rapping on YouTube, totally off the street, not in the NFL for a long time. And he looks amazing. In the first half alone, he had 5 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Now, he didn't catch a pass after that, but he was on fire. Evan, what did you think of the Darren Waller breakout here? Any other Dolphins thoughts after seeing their first game without Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, and he got his snap rate up. I think it was like in the 30% range in week 4, and then in week 5 it was up almost to 70%.
Correct.
He had 0 targets in the second half, and when asked about that, Dave Canales, the Panthers head coach, said that because we got pressure on the Dolphins in the second half, that kind of took Darren Waller out of the game plan for them. That was Dave Canales' explanation. But it was nice to see. I mean, we need help. I mean, every single year, I feel like tight ends come out of the woodwork. Darren Waller's 33 years old. Is he going to hold up physically? You know, how long can he do that? He didn't even play football last year. He didn't even practice in training camp because he had some like severe injury that he suffered early in training camp. But for as long as he's upright, he's going to be a fantasy starter. We've seen that each of the last 2 weeks with his playing time and usage in ascending.
Yeah. The bar to clear at tight end is so low. The bar is, can you score a touchdown? And clearly they have plans for Darren Waller around the goal line. And without Tyreek Hill, there's just so many more targets to go around. But yeah, you know, I did not think we'd see this from Darren Waller. He did my friend Drew Shore's podcast, which is not a big podcast, by the way, but he did his podcast over the summer. And I was like, oh, it's over for Darren Waller. He's doing Drew Shore's podcast. It's over. But shout out to him, man. Obviously, kept himself in shape. And
you didn't do the Davis Maddock podcast?
A lot of people had high hopes for Malik Washington in this first game without Tyreek Hill. We did not see a role change at all. They just do not send him downfield. Malik Washington had an ADOT of 4.6 yards in this game. He's at 4.5 yard ADOT on the season. That is pathetically low. He has seen 20 targets this season, caught 12 of them, and it's gone for 47 yards. 12 catches for 47 yards. So if they are not going to change his role and where he catches the football, it's going to be hard to have all your catches come behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, and be a fantasy asset there. Any Malik Washington thoughts, Evan? And then my other thought is they lost this game to the Panthers. Are you worried about Mike McDaniel's job now at 1-4?
Oh, yeah. Every week. I mean, have you seen his post-game press conferences too? Like he's a lost puppy right now, Mike McDaniel. I just had 2 more minor notes. Jalen Wright was a healthy scratch for this game. So the only 2 active running backs that the Dolphins had were Devon Achane and Ollie Gordon. So Ollie Gordon is the clear number 2 at this point, if that was in any kind of a doubt. And then Nick Westbrook-Akine was actually the number 2 receiver in terms of playing time and routes in this game, but he had 0 targets. So he is what Matt Harmon calls the sacrificial X.
Undoubtedly. Okay. Story number 3 is the other side of that game, the Carolina Panthers. Panthers come back and get a win over the Dolphins. The story, of course, was Rico Dowdle. With Chuba Hubbard sidelined by a calf injury, Rico Dowdle goes 23 carries, 206 rushing yards, a touchdown, plus caught 3 balls for 28 yards. I mean, this is the stuff that I try to talk about all summer. You know, when Malik Neighbors goes down, Darius Slayton or Wan'Dale Robinson, they're not capable of filling in for an early fantasy pick. When Tyreek Hill goes down, Malik Washington isn't it. But when Chuba Hubbard goes down, you actually can get 30-plus points from his backup. So anyway, now the question becomes, Evan, do you think Rico Dowdle's outburst here against maybe the worst defense in the league, at least one of them, do you think that affects Chuba Hubbard's role going forward when he gets back? Thoughts on that or any other Panthers thoughts?
It's absolutely a threat to Chuba Hubbard. I mean, you don't see a guy go for over 200 rushing yards in a particular game and his team wins the game like on his back, and then he doesn't get rewarded for that. And also Rico Dowdle has the Cowboys coming up next, which obviously is a little bit of a revenge game, but also is a really good matchup for him. So he's likely to remain successful. Rico Dowdle already had a role in the backfield when Chuba Hubbard was in there. I would expect a 50-50 split whenever Chuba Hubbard comes back. And I don't think that Chuba Hubbard is going to be back this week because of what Rico Dowdle showed last week. So they can give Chuba Hubbard another game off. Also, that injury, that was like kind of a recurring injury for Chuba Hubbard. I think that he's very, very likely to miss this week. I didn't look at the final participation. Where did Rico Dowdle finish in terms of snaps? Because there was some concern over Trevor Etienne cutting into him. And I think that both you and I were like, no, Rico Dowdle is going to play like the vast majority of this game.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge thing for DFS, playing Rico over Rachaad White, even though Rachaad White had a very good game. Yeah, Rico played 47 out of 70 snaps. Trevor Etienne got 14, and DJ Dallas got 12 snaps in this game.
Okay. So, yeah, and I think the DJ Dallas played in some passing situations, which he used to do in Seattle as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rico Dowdle, the clear-cut lead back, also generate a ton of his yards after first contact. I mean, he's breaking tackles. That's the sign of a legitimately good running back. I think there's no question he's going to have a significant role when Chuba returns.
It's crazy because Rico had a pretty decent year last year for the Cowboys. NFL didn't think so. Cowboys let him walk and brought in Miles Sanders. He signs with the Panthers for like no money, like none. And so, yeah, I mean, impressive outing for sure for Rico Dowdle. Dave Canales was asked about what will happen when Chuba comes back. Canales said, what I take from this is we have 2 good running backs, and so we'll have to figure that part out. That's a good problem to have, but it's something we have to work through. So he is admitting, at least here, that Rico is going to have a bigger role than maybe he did before at the expense of Chuba. Other note from this game, I thought they were going to have to bench Bryce Young in the first half, Evan. I mean, my God, horrific fumble on a sack, also horrific interception late in the game, which, you know, he was already kind of playing decently at that point, but late in the game, he called a timeout when they didn't have one in the second half, pulled a Chris Webber. I mean, for most of this season, Bryce Young has not looked like an NFL quarterback. And honestly, like we were talking in the first half of this game, I was like, man, they might have to bench him. They do get to play the Cowboys next, though. So that is good for Bryce Young. But yeah, Evan, any final Panthers thoughts here?
Just the last one is Ted McMillan has really only had one fairly big game. He has one 100-yard game. I think he still does not have a touchdown.
Yeah.
But I would continue to cling tightly and kind of hope that Andy Dalton does go in for Bryce Young, you know. But Ted McMillan is averaging 1.9 yards per route run, which is a really good number for a rookie. So I still feel very, very good about Ted McMillan. It would be nice to get something of a quarterback upgrade because I think that he would explode actually if Andy Dalton went under center.
Agreed. 100%. Oh, by the way, Jalen Coker's practice window they're opening it on Wednesday. So 21-day window here to activate Jalen Coker starting on Wednesday for the Panthers. Let's go to story number 4, the New England Patriots. This was the Sunday night game, Evan, and maybe, just maybe, we're seeing the Patriots close the gap in the AFC East. They go into Buffalo in a primetime game and win, despite Drake May taking 4 sacks, despite yet another fumble from Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson now has 8 fumbles in his last 20 games. He's lost 3 fumbles in his last 3 games. Mike Vrabel was asked about this after the game. He said, we need to get it fixed because we need Ramondre's ability and skill set. They especially need it because Antonio Gibson went down for the season with a torn ACL during this game. So, Evan, what do you think of Patriots win in Buffalo and Ramondre Stevenson's latest fumble?
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Antonio, it's like Moses is trying to part the seas for Travion Henderson, but he just doesn't want it to this point because he just hasn't played well. I think that eventually he's going to bust out of this slump. Travion Henderson was such a good prospect coming out of Ohio State, but it's hard for teams to justify giving work to a rookie who has not earned more work. But I mean, at some point, the Patriots are just going to have to cave on this because fumbles, year-ending injuries, Travion Henderson is going to get his chance, I think, sooner rather than later.
Yep.
And quite possibly against New Orleans this week.
Yeah.
So before the season, I was really liking Drake May at 80-1 to win NFL MVP, and I got blowback on Twitter about it. Some guy told me I'm like an idiot, I'm crazy, and then by the start of training camp he was 40-1. Now he's down to 30-1. I was thinking if the Patriots had beaten the Raiders in Week 1, which they obviously should have in hindsight, and they were 4-1 right now, coming off a primetime win over Buffalo, what would Drake May's MVP odds be? 14-1, 20-1?
Yeah, maybe get down to 20.
I mean,
yeah.
He is playing at a really, really high level right now. I know that as of last week, he was the number 1 overall quarterback in fantasy. Did you see what Greg Olsen said about him? Greg Olsen, who's become one of the best football analysts out there, quote, Drake May looks like he's going to be the best quarterback in the league. Yeah. He's that good.
I love Drake May. I think in terms of MVP betting, my concern is counting stats just aren't likely to be there. He only has 7 touchdown passes in 5 games. He's only 5th in the NFL in passing yards. So just on counting stats. But I agree with you. He's been extremely
Well, I'll tell you
valuable.
what, though. I mean, I think that this year, the MVP feels very, very wide open.
Yeah.
As of week 6. Usually we'll have 2 or 3 front runners by now. And I would say it's wide open. I mean, people are talking about Baker Mayfield. I think Dak Prescott, when we get to him, Josh Allen is always going to be in it. But I think it's a really interesting year entering week 6 for MVP bets. It's very wide open.
One other note for me on Patriots stuff. This Stephon Diggs, I mean, this was the homecoming game for him. He was jacked up. He said it was 100% personal. I get all that. He only ran 23 routes on 36 Drake May dropbacks on Sunday night, which is concerning. 64% of the routes is not great. But he was so good again. Turned that into 10 catches, 146 yards on 40% of the targets. I mean, Steph Diggs looked deadish the first few weeks, and maybe it was just ramp up off the ACL. Maybe it was just random. The last 2 weeks, I thought Steph Diggs has looked incredible, like a youthful Steph Diggs the last 2 weeks. Do you think this was just a one-off against his old team the last couple of weeks, or do you think we're going to see this sustained production from Steph Diggs?
Well, I have not looked at the exact route rates, and I will when I write this game up, Patriots Saints. But it strikes me that Stephon Diggs has been playing. He started as a rotational perimeter receiver. Strikes me that he's been in the slot more lately, and I like that for him in this offense. But that's something I'll look up before I write up this game.
Yeah, I mean the problem is he hasn't been in the slot that much because Pop Douglas has to play in the slot, So
right.
Pop Douglas can't play anywhere.
But Pop Douglas, the arrow has been pointing down on him.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, for sure. But PFF has Steph Diggs only playing 30 snaps in this game on Sunday night, 20 of them out wide, 10 in the slot. So
I wonder how many targets he got in the slot versus how many he got outside. But I'd like to see him in the slot. But he did make plays downfield in this game.
Yep.
And there were signs of him kind of moving up the pecking order, I think, last week as well.
Yeah, looks amazing right now. 5th story of the week comes from Arizona. Just a absolutely horrific loss for the Cardinals here. Mary DeMarcado drops the ball, does the drop ball celebration before the end zone thing Titans storm back from there, somehow win 22-21. This has to be like an incredibly deflating loss for the Cardinals. Like, I could see this sticking with them. From the fantasy perspective, the big story coming into this game was how would the running back stuff go? First game without James Conner and Trey Benson. And as we kind of expected, as we had it projected, Michael Carter was the lead back in this game. Bam Knight got one drive, and that drive happened to end in a touchdown. Lucky for him. Demercado played all of the pass down 2-minute stuff. But Michael Carter did get the feature role, which led to 18 carries plus 5 catches. Evan, we're going to see this the next 3 weeks as Trey Benson remains on IR. What do you think of Cardinals and how they used their running backs on Sunday?
Yeah, I was totally off this because I didn't know how. I had really no feel for how it was going to go. I thought that Demercado actually kind of deserved the chance. And I mean, Michael Carter had 18 carries in this game. He did not have a run longer than 7 yards in this game. So he didn't exactly run away with his opportunity, but he obviously was the guy to jump in to that early down role. And Demercado obviously didn't help himself with, the touchback on the 72-yard. I mean, what a disaster. And then freaking Jonathan Gannon goes up and like hits him, on the sideline. And Drew Petzing is taking all kinds of heat. Remember, was it a couple years ago, Drew Petzing, people were talking him up. It's the Cardinals offensive coordinator, a future NFL head coach. That's going south. After the Demercado fumble or touchback, the Cardinals just ran out of gas, wound up losing this game. I think that this was a big game for Survivor, which, never bet on the Cardinals in Survivor. But I think a lot of people did because it just seemed like the Titans were so dead.
Yeah.
And now it feels like the Cardinals are dead. I mean, just headed for another season of disappointment. All kinds of, now Kyler Murray. We're worried about Kyler Murray's foot injury.
So first I'll say this. Like, I thought Marvin Harrison played a really good game. I'm going to get to Kyler in a second. I actually thought Marvin Harrison played a really good game here. He Randy Moss, 2 dudes, down to like the 1-inch line. Kyler finished that with a touchdown run. But still, Marvin Harrison only 5 targets for a 16% share in this game. He's just not a featured player. And honestly, if you're like a Marvin Harrison truther that he's actually really good, part of the issue just might be Kyler. Kyler Murray has not gone over 18 fantasy points in a game all season, despite matchups with New Orleans, Carolina, San Francisco, Tennessee. In this game, late in this game, he's got a little bit of a foot injury. He comes back and he finishes the game. I think it's going to be fine. They said they're monitoring it. But yeah, like, I'm just worried that Kyler is never going to unlock Marvin Harrison if you think Marvin Harrison can be unlocked, which I'm still skeptical of. But he played a good game here.
Marvin Harrison was balling
in
the first couple of quarters, and I think the Cardinals went the last 26 snaps of the game without targeting him.
Yep. All right. Remember, if you want to read all of Evan's takes before the games happen, he does that in his matchups column each week. Also, if you want a show that includes Evan and I's takes for the Sunday DFS slate or our final takes for fantasy on Sunday morning in show form, all of that is part of our in-season product. Details on establishtherun.com. We have weekly, monthly, and annual options available. That is the in-season product on establishtherun.com. All right, let's go to the NFC now, Evan. We'll go in alphabetical order. Start with the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons were on a bye in week 5. They will come out of it for a home Monday night game against the Bills. So a very long week here for the Falcons. Remember, in the game before the bye, we saw Michael Penix get right with a really sharp game against the Commanders. This will be a tougher spot against the Bills. Big thing for me that I'm watching is Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney had that shoulder injury, missed all of training camp, played really poorly upon his return, had a hamstring thing pop up in week 4. They need Darnell Mooney to get right. And by they, I mean I need Darnell Mooney to get right for my fantasy teams. But yeah, Evan, any thoughts on Falcons for you as they come out of their bye?
Nothing new. My only note was about Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, and the other thing about this is, like, hopefully they use the bye week to fix stuff on the Caleb McGarry, like replacing Caleb McGarry front, because I feel like that's really affected them.
I feel like it's offense. Not fixable.
Yeah, maybe. God. But it's definitely affecting the offense for sure. Let's go to the Bears. Bears were also on a bye in week 5. They will come out of it for a Monday game also to play the Commanders. Big thing for me on the Bears was, can we get post-bye rookie bumps for Luther Burden and or Colson Loveland? I was not really a Luther Burden guy over the summer. I thought his ADP was too high relative to all the target competition. But at this point, I do think it makes sense to get Luther Burden out there, considering DJ Moore is at 1.26 yards per route run, really, really low. So yeah, Evan, any Bears thoughts for you as they come out of their bye?
Yeah, that Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. I mean, this was their off week, their time to, kind of maybe reevaluate some things, especially these guys that they drafted in both in the top 40 picks. Also, the offensive line. The Bears benched their left tackle Braxton Jones during the game in Week 4. They played Theo Benedette, second-year undrafted free agent out of Canada, at left tackle in place of him. Darnell Wright at right tackle was out for the game with an elbow. The interior has been fine for Chicago. They got to get their tackle situation settled.
Yeah. The Colston Loveland stuff, man. You used a number 10 overall pick on this guy. I know he's been banged up. I know he was out the game before the bye. You took him ahead of Tyler Warren and Cole Kmet's at 0.95 yards per route run. Like, let's get Colston Loveland out there. Cowboys. Cowboys go to East Rutherford and roll the Jets 37-22. Even though the Cowboys were missing 4 starting offensive linemen effectively in this game, plus no CeeDee Lamb, plus no Kevontae Turpin. And when Evan talks about Dak MVP, I assume this is what he's referring to. I mean, offensive line problems, weaponry problems. Dak turns 29 pass attempts into 239 yards and 4 touchdowns. Evan, what do you think of Cowboys' performance against the Jets?
Yeah, Dak Prescott has been playing, I mean, maybe the best football of his career. He was second in NFL MVP voting in 2023. But, I mean, I think he's playing at that or higher than that level this season, considering all the attrition around him, also having to deal with one of the worst defenses in the league. The Cowboys are 2-2-1, and I don't think that they deserve to be 2-2-1 without Dak Prescott because they are deficient at so many other positions. Here's a good stat, though, from Jacob Gibbs of CBS. The Cowboys lead the NFL in pre-snap motion and play action rate. And we know historically, statistically, those are cheat codes for an offense. And they did not do a whole lot of that under Mike McCarthy. They're doing a ton of that under Brian Schottenheimer, who I think also has done a really good job as their head coach, all things considered. So that gives me optimism that the Cowboys can keep it going and maybe even have an upward trajectory, at least offensively. Right now, they're number 1 in the NFL in offense. So, but they're doing that with injuries on the offensive line and without their number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
Also, one note, Jaden Blue, rookie, making his NFL debut in place of Miles Sanders, who was injured with 2 injuries in this game. I don't know what his final stats were, but I know that he had some big-time blitz pickups in this game, and that's something that will earn him playing time going forward. I would expect Jaden Blue to be active again for week 6 against Carolina.
Yeah, so Jaden Blue was active for the first time, as Evan said. Only played 11 snaps, had 4 carries for 7 yards, so that wasn't great. But the blitz pickup stuff, as Evan said, we'll get him some, at least rave reviews in the tape room after the Louis Vuitton cleats incident that went viral with the blisters. CeeDee Lamb and Kevontae Turpin, they said both could be back within the next 2 weeks. Remember, they chose not to put CeeDee Lamb on IR. So, like, the Chargers put Hampton on IR. They're saying he's definitely going to be out 4 weeks. Cowboys did not put Lamb on IR. Expect him back sometime in the next couple weeks here. I was a little concerned, Evan, that Ryan Flournoy, I'm sure I butchered that, out-targeted.
I think it's
Flournoy out-targeted George Pickens 9-4 here. Flournoy was the wide receiver 3. The key point to me, though, he was a slot guy. So Pickens and Jalen Tolbert played on the outside. It was Flournoy, the 2024 round 6 pick out of Southeast Missouri State. He was a slot guy. He was the one that got to go nuts. Pickens saved his day by putting it in the mouth of Ahmad Gardner on a 43-yard touchdown catch. But it's like, I'm just a little concerned for the George Pickens bags that they're not featuring him, trying to get him the ball. And even with Lamb out, he gets out-targeted 9-4 by Ryan Flournoy. So, yeah, any thoughts on that, Evan?
Yeah, Brian Broaddus was talking about this. Former Cowboys scout, worked in the front office for a long time, knows Jerry Jones personally, et cetera, et cetera. I think that they kind of game planned because they expected Sauce or Ahmed Gardner to shadow George Pickens, so they game plan to go elsewhere with the ball. You saw Jake Ferguson have another game. By the way, Jake Ferguson, number one
Yeah.
tight end in fantasy, and it's kind of like by a distance at this point. But yeah, Flournoy was obviously the beneficiary. Jalen Tolbert, my God, this dude stinks. But yeah, Ryan Flournoy, he capitalized on that opportunity. I'm not worried about George Pickens or anything like that. I think that was specific to that game plan, and it worked.
Yeah. By the way, Javonte Williams, like I was just wrong, like
Right.
just wrong. He's had an unreal season,
Horribly wrong.
and he and the Cowboys are like coming out in the media being like, yeah, Javonte's our bell cow. He's earned that. Just an insane season so far for Javonte Williams.
Just he's 2 years removed. He's a second round pick, 2 years removed from that knee injury, and he's balling. I mean, he's breaking tackles. He's been excellent in the receiving game. And again, he also is doing that with a depleted offensive line.
Let's go to the Detroit Lions. Lions went to Cincinnati and rolled the Burrow-less Bengals 37-24. The David Montgomery homecoming sister narrative did hit with a rushing touchdown and a throwing touchdown. They were clearly trying to get him touchdowns, but given what happened in at the running back position in week 2 DFS, like David Montgomery 2 touchdowns was not even close to enough. We also got a frustrating game from Jameson Williams, another frustrating game from Jameson Williams here. Evan, thoughts on that or any other Lions thoughts?
Yeah, they went out of their way to feed Dave Montgomery, who only had 9 touches in the previous game. I think he had 19 here.
Yeah.
So this was the David Montgomery game for sure. I mean, Jared Goff had 23 pass attempts. So somebody's going to get left out. Amon-Ra dominated the target. Sam Laporta was in a great spot. I talked about that in matchups last week, and he delivered. And Jameson Williams was obviously the odd man out. Jared Goff during the Lions have won 4 games in a row since, you remember, they got destroyed in week 1 by Green Bay. 4 wins in a row. During that 4-game win streak, Jared Goff, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, 9.2 yards per pass attempt, 74% completion. So Jared Goff is balling. Also, the Lions in this game, they sat Taylor Decker, who's been dealing with the after effects of offseason shoulder surgery kind of for a long time. They sat him in this game, I think, with eyes on having him come back for Sunday Night Football this week against Kansas City. They knew they could kind of get by without him. And his backup, I think his name's Giovanni Manu, he got worked actually against Cincinnati. But I think that Taylor Decker will be back for Sunday Night Football against Kansas City.
Yeah, speaking of injuries here, Khalif Raymond left this game with a minor injury that allowed Isaac Tisla, I believe is the way you say it, to get on the field a bit more here. But yeah, I'm frustrated on Jameson Williams, certainly, and I am a little worried that they just like are not showing any desire to feature him in the intermediate. He did get an end around, like they're like, let's get Jameson Williams going. They gave him an end around one of the first plays of the game, but 1 target on 23 Goff attempts. Like too often he's becoming the odd man out. And I think it's just because he's running so far down the field on his routes. So
20-yard ADOT is outrageous.
Let's go to the Green Bay Packers. They were on a bye in week 5. They'll come out of it for an incredible spot home against the Bengals on Sunday. Last time we saw Green Bay, they put 40 on Dallas in that overtime tie. Ideally, we will see a post-bye bump for Matthew Golden in terms of usage/output. But man, it's starting to get crowded because Christian Watson's window has been open. He seems to be on the Steph Diggs ACL recovery plan. Eventually, we're going to get Jaden Reed back. So time is kind of running out. Not, I don't want to say running out, but it's going to get tighter for Matthew Golden as the season goes along here. Evan, thoughts on Packers as they come out of their bye?
And the Packers have also really shown no inclination to open it up offensively from a passing game standpoint. They did in their previous game, but they were getting pushed. That was against Dallas, right? Yeah, the 40-40 game. And they got pushed, so they wound up throwing them on. And they were very successful throwing the football in that game. But I think that their defense is typically going to be better than how they performed in that game. My concern for Matthew Golden, he's at 1.3 yards per route run, which you want to see a first-round pick have a better number than that, is that Matthew Golden's skill set kind of overlaps with Christian Watson, I think. And to this point, the Packers have not shown an inclination to use Matthew Golden on more than, like, they love rotating their receivers. They really believe that. And Christian Watson has to be a rotational receiver because he gets hurt all the time. But I think that that's a concern going forward for Matthew Golden, the return of Christian Watson. What's going to help the entire offense is the Packers are getting back starting guard Aaron Banks, starting right tackle Zach Tom. Those guys return to practice during the bye week and should be good to go in week 6.
Breaking news into the show, Evan, I just to go back on the Lions, breaking news into the show, Terrion Arnold sounds like he's going to be out for this season. Do you think that matters to Lions defense? No Terrion Arnold rest of season.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a big theme of what I write about the Lions this week, because they were already without
DJ Reed.
DJ Reed,
yeah, their
number 2 cornerback, and the guy who was filling in for DJ Reed, Dorsey, is out indefinitely. So all of a sudden, we've got a potential pass funnel in Detroit that could become a pass funnel defense.
After they got hurt last year, it turned into like back to the Coors Field stuff. Aiden Hutchinson went down, all their defensive backs went down, and starting to feel a little bit the same there on Lions. Let's go to Rams. This was the Thursday game, big divisional game against the Niners. Supposed to be an easy game for the Rams. No Purdy, no Kittle, no Juwan Jennings, no Pearsall, no Ayuk. Instead, Rams lose 26-23 to a limping Mac Jones in overtime. Story, though, has to be Matthew Stafford for the Rams. I mean, another massive game here. 389 yards, 3 touchdowns. Matthew Stafford is on pace to throw for 5,110 yards and 37 touchdowns. He's just playing out of his mind. Like, no-look passes. He had like a rolling away from his body, throwing back across bomb in this game. Bad loss. But, Evan, what do you think of Rams' performance on Thursday night?
I mean, all of the above, and I think that the Rams should be getting back Rob Havenstein, who they did not have against San Francisco. He should be coming back. They get the Ravens next. Kyron Williams had a couple of horrible miscues in this game. You could blame, you could blame the game on him almost personally. But Blake Corum also had 3 drops and a fumble. You think, well, maybe could they involve Jarquez Hunter? I mean, they gave Kyron Williams money before the season.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going to be the same deal going forward. We're not going to see any kind of changes.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Kyron Williams does. They love this kid, and they're going to keep playing him no matter what. It's clear, like if Blake Corum fumbles or Blake Corum has drops, he's going to get benched. If it happens to Kyron Williams, nothing's going to happen. He's going to keep playing. I'm not like complaining about that. I don't care. I don't have much of Blake Corum or Kyron Williams really this season, either one, but it is what it is. Kyron Williams' leash is going to be much longer than Blake Corum's on the fumble stuff, and it seems like the leash is almost infinite. Rams do get to play the Ravens, which has turned into one of the worst defenses in the league. Ravens here in week 6.
And I think that we should be looking for going forward. Puka Nacua obviously is going to be like a top 3 wide receiver play every single week, maybe just the locked-in wide receiver 1 overall every single week. But in games where we notice that defenses are more vulnerable downfield, those are the ones where we should get excited about Davante Adams. Davante Adams actually has a higher air yards share in the Rams offense than does Puka Nacua, despite Puka Nacua having like 15 more targets. But Davante Adams still dominating air yards, and the Ravens have been getting killed on downfield passes. That's something we should look for when we want to play Davante Adams in DFS.
Let's go to the Minnesota Vikings. This was the London game on Sunday morning. Carson Wentz leads the Vikings to a late win over the Browns, 21-17. And now people are calling for a quarterback controversy as the Vikings go into their bye, which I guess I get because J.J. McCarthy was bad for almost all of his snaps outside of that one Bears half. But that was only 2 games. And it's not like Carson Wentz has been great. I mean, Carson Wentz has beaten Jake Browning and Dylan Gabriel, barely beat Dylan Gabriel. So what do you think, Evan, McCarthy or Wentz when the Vikings come out of their bye? And by the way, they did confirm J.J. McCarthy will practice this week off of the ankle, and Carson Wentz's left non-throwing shoulder is getting evaluated. So yeah, what do you think about Vikings quarterback here as they head into their bye?
Well, I thought it was very interesting how they came out and said publicly immediately that Carson Wentz came out of this game he missed like a few snaps in the Week 5 game with the shoulder. And they said, oh, well, he needs to go for further evaluation. I mean, I think they're setting up. They're going to go right back to J.J. McCarthy, assuming that J.J. McCarthy is good to go,
Yeah.
which I tend to think that he will be. I think that they're going to go right back to him. They also need to sort through some injuries on the offensive line. Brian O'Neill, right tackle, Donovan Jackson, left guard, both missed Week 5. Ryan Kelly, he's going to be out a while because he suffered 5 known concussions in the NFL. They had to place him on IR because he suffered his second concussion in 3 weeks in Week 4. And then Christian Darrisaw also missed time in the game in London. So they have to sort through those things. But I think that as soon as J.J. McCarthy is ready, they're going straight back to him. I don't think that there's any kind of quarterback controversy. And I think that the Vikings putting that out there, that they're all of a sudden concerned about Carson Wentz's left shoulder, not even his throwing shoulder, I think that that's setting that up.
I agree. I mean, you've given J.J. McCarthy 2 starts. You let Sam Darnold go. Like, you have to give J.J. McCarthy a longer leash than 2 games. Other note for me on this game, Jordan Addison off-field woes continue. Missed a walkthrough, and so he was benched for the first quarter of this game. Finishes, catches a game-winning touchdown, 541-1. He's very, very good at the game, but clearly there's a bunch of off-field stuff going on with Jordan Addison. Final note for me was Jordan Mason only 13-5 in carries over Xavier Scott in this game. Now, snaps were 43-14, so I think it was just kind of random that Xavier Scott got so many carries here, 5. I still think this is Jordan Mason's backfield until Aaron Jones gets back, but I just wanted to note that.
Well, we were doing a show during this game, but Jordan Mason lost a fumble.
Yeah.
And I think that contributed to Xavier Scott getting more work. I'll be interested to see if Aaron Jones is almost ready to come back.
I have not seen
reserve.
He's been on IR, and I've been checking because I do have a decent amount of Aaron Jones, and so yeah.
Well, there's obviously a role there for Aaron Jones whenever he gets back.
For sure. Let's go to the New Orleans Saints. Saints get their first win of the season here. Beat the Giants at home 26-14. Kendra Miller outcarried Alvin Kamara in this game 10-8. Routes were Kamara 19-9. So you can see the role that's happening here. Kendra Miller is forcing his way into more and more base stuff when they're winning games, etc. It'll be better for Kendra Miller. Kamara is still the clear passing down back. And the other big note here was Taysom Hill is back. Shockingly to me, I did not think he'd be back this fast. I thought he might be done for career. He played 9 snaps here. Foster Moreau also returned for 23 snaps. Juwan Johnson still played a ton, but it feels a little shaky for me here on him. Evan, thoughts on the Kendra Miller Kamara stuff, tight end stuff, anything else on Saints?
Yeah, and to reiterate what I said on a previous show about Kendra Miller talking to Underhill, like Underhill just thinks that Kendra Miller is just the best running back on the team at this point of their respective careers. Under Dennis Allen, Kendra Miller basically he could have fallen out of the league, but this new coaching staff under Kellen Moore gave him a second chance, and he's really responded. And if you look at his playing time rates on a weekly basis, they've gone up every single week of the season. He was up above 41% in Week 5, a season high. And I think that will continue to go up. He should be rostered everywhere. You're hoping for an Alvin Kamara trade. Again, I don't know if that's going to come to fruition, but that's kind of what you're hoping for Kendra Miller.
People are obsessed with Taysom Hill, Evan. I got so many messages on Sunday morning like, Taysom Hill's active. Should I pick him up? Should I play him in DFS? I mean, he played 9 snaps. Now, I get it. He can play very few snaps and have a big fantasy impact. I get that. And he was coming off a really severe injury. He'll probably be ramped up. Do you have any interest in adding Taysom Hill to any fantasy teams?
If you're desperate at tight end, no question. And, Underhill was kind of talking him up before the game on Sunday. And, Jay Glazer said some very similar things to what Underhill was saying before the game. And Jay Glazer never misses. So I don't know if they both got, shaky information, only 9 snaps. That's not the way that Jay Glazer and Nick Underhill were talking about Taysom Hill. But in defense of Nick Underhill, Jay Glazer had the same info.
Yeah, I do think that they'll ramp him up. But again, you have Juwan, you have Moreau, and you have Taysom Hill. It's a lot of guys that you can play at that position for a team that's not going to score very many points. Let's go to the New York Giants. This was the first game for the Giants since the Malik Neighbors injury. It did not go great. The turning point in this game to me was the flea flicker. He had Darius Slayton on the flea flicker wide open, and Jackson Dart just kind of short-armed it a little bit. Should have been a touchdown. From there, things went south, and unfortunately, later, Darius Slayton fumbles, and on that same play, hurts his hamstring. Giants fall to 1-4. So, ugly run out here for the Giants. Evan, what do you think of their game in New Orleans?
They went really heavy on two tight end sets in this game, and therefore you saw Daniel Bellinger lead them in receiving in the game. Theo Johnson caught 2 touchdowns. I think there might be a real connection developing between Jackson Dart and Theo Johnson. If you read my my write-up for the Thursday night game, Eagles against the Giants, I mean, the numbers from Jackson Dart, just when targeting Theo Johnson, they've been super, super efficient. That will be posted a little bit later today. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Darius Slayton is going to play on Thursday night. Jalen Hyatt is totally a contact averse player. He had opportunities to make plays in this game down the field, and he won't go fight for the ball. They're just really, really depleted. I also thought that Jackson Dart, his arm strength limitations showed up at times against the Saints. He had pretty good protection in this game, but he's at 5 yards per attempt in each of his first 2 starts.
It's not going to be easy though, man. I mean, he's great as a runner. When you're throwing to Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, and Bo Collins, it's not going to be easy, man. So I don't want to be too hard on Jackson Dart as a thrower, but yes, it certainly looks rough for now. Last note for me on the Giants, Tyrone Tracy was listed as doubtful in week 5, not out. So maybe there's some chance he's back sooner rather than later, Tyrone Tracy. Cam Skattebo outsnapped Devin Singletary in this game 50-23. Again, I mentioned Devin Singletary as a potential trade candidate. If Tyrone Tracy can get healthy, we'll see there. 6 more catches, though, for Skattebo in this game. I was worried about that, as Jackson Dart's running back throw rate was not great in college. So good for me to see, for Skattebo people, that Dart got it to Skattebo 6 times in the passing game. Let's go to Philadelphia.
So did you see this insane block that Cam Skattebo had in this game?
I did not.
Oh my God. He is the most physical player in the NFL. Yeah. And when I say that, I am not exaggerating. He was getting into it with DeMario Davis, who's a borderline Hall of Famer. I mean, Cam Skattebo is he is a freaking wild man out there. I hope he doesn't injure himself.
Yeah. I mean, there's, I sometimes Giants fans send me these cut ups. It's a 2-minute music video of Cam Skattebo just smashing his face into people, with music in the background. It's so good. Okay. Eagles blew a 17-3 fourth quarter lead at home to the Broncos, lose 21-17. Now, I know what people are going to say. They screwed themselves by being too conservative. They're playing tush push not to win. That was not the case in this game. Surprisingly, at least to me, the Eagles came out throwing a lot, even with their offensive line injury issues, even with the Broncos' elite pass rush, even with Patrick Surtain. So even though the Eagles had a lead for the overwhelming majority of this game, Jalen Hurts dropped back 45 times. That's the most times Jalen Hurts has dropped back since week 13 of 2023. So I was shocked by the game plan here. Evan, what do you think of Eagles' loss to the Broncos?
I actually think that the game plan made sense because the Eagles have not been able to run the ball this year. Landon Dickerson got hurt. He may miss multiple weeks with an ankle injury. Lane Johnson has been in and out. Cam Jurgens, after the game, admitted that he had off-season back surgery, and he just is not right. They are not opening holes like they did last season with a full deck of offensive linemen. And, entering this game, Saquon Barkley had no runs longer than 16 yards. And, I mean, he did not have – he did. He had a 17-yarder in this game on 6 carries. The Eagles had 9 designed runs for the entire game. They tried to attack the Broncos with the passing game, and I think that actually made sense, and it worked in the first half. They were having success throwing the ball, and then the Eagles got out-coached. You remember leading up to the Super Bowl in the playoffs last year, we were let's poke some holes in the Eagles. They had the best defense in the league. They had one of the best offense in the league. They had the best offensive line in the league. Coaching, could coaching get in the way? I don't think that they're a particularly well-coached team. And I think that their coaching has taken a step back this year, and they absolutely got out-coached. In the first half, the Broncos played man coverage. At halftime, the Broncos switched to zone coverage, and the Eagles could get nothing going in the passing game that they had committed to, and they weren't able to run the ball either. So they did nothing offensively in the second half. I think the Eagles just flat out got out-coached.
The loss of Kellen Moore has been more impactful to me, to the Eagles, than the Lions' loss of Ben Johnson. Like losing Kellen Moore, I actually think has mattered for the Eagles. But more importantly, I just think the offensive line play has been way worse, way worse. You can see it in all the yards before contact stuff on Saquon Barkley. I do think that the pendulum is going to swing back and they'll have a run-heavy game plan here against the Giants on Thursday night. You can read Evan's matchups column.
Assuming that Saquon is good to go, he did miss practice, or at least on the practice report.
General soreness, they're calling it.
Yeah. And I think he's expected to play. I mean, this is a revenge game for him and everything else. Like, I think that Saquon's going to want to be out there, but just something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, last note for me on Saquon. Will Shipley only played 8 snaps in this game. Saquon is their passing back for a lot of this, and he caught a 47-yard touchdown in this game, man. He can play in the pass game. People are calling him Derrick Henry and stuff like that. And that is nowhere near true. It's just they need to throw, and Jalen Hurts needs to throw it to him, and they're starting to do that a decent amount. 49ers, unreal win for the 49ers in LA on Thursday night. As I mentioned, no Purdy, no Kittle, no Jawan, no Pearsall, no Ayuk. Mac Jones is hobbling around out there against a good Rams defense, and he goes full Mac Montana Jones, 33 of 49, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, while throwing to Kendrick Bourne, Jake Tongas, Demarcus Robinson. This is an impressive win. Evan, what do you think of 49ers game on Thursday night?
Well, we talk about it. What's the mark of elite quarterback play? Elevating your teammates. Mac McCorkle, Montana, whatever you want to call him, this guy's doing that. And he is the missing ingredient, obviously, for Brian Thomas in Jacksonville. It has nothing to do with Shane Waldron, all right? Conspiracy theorists, and I support all conspiracy theories, except for this one. It's not Shane Waldron. It's the loss of Mac McCorkle, Montana.
Brian Thomas is averaging roughly 5 more fantasy points per game with Mac Jones than with any other quarterback that he's played with in his career.
Yeah, I don't know. Should we do our weekly soliloquy to Christian McCaffrey, who's on pace for 139 receptions, which would break his own single-season record for receptions by a running back. Also, according to Next Gen Stats, Christian McCaffrey in Week 5 Thursday Night Football, he forced 12 missed tackles, his most in any game during his tenure as a 49er. So he's playing the best football of his career, really. And I know that his rushing stats are not where you want them. 49ers just have not been able to run block this season, but he is making up for it and then some as a wide receiver. As of entering last week, he was the wide receiver 8 overall on his receiving stats alone.
A lot of injury updates we're looking for on San Francisco. The Brock Purdy thing scares me. This was a aggravation of his turf toe injury. This stuff can linger, and so I'll be watching that one closely. Mac Jones clearly isn't 100% either. Maybe George Kittle gets back here Week 5 or Week 6. Kind of expecting Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings back here for Week 6. Brandon Ayuk is the one that does not sound close whatsoever. So a lot to keep up with on 49ers injuries.
I think that Kittle is going to miss Week 6 and return for Week 7. And I think that Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall will be back for Week 6 against Tampa Bay. Those are just my guesses. We're doing this Tuesday morning.
Pretty good spot, too, for those guys, depending, we'll see what happens at quarterback. But Bucs are turning into a pretty big pass funnel from what I can tell. Let's go to Seattle Seahawks. And speaking of the Bucs and pass funnels, this was a crazy game. First half, defenses played well in this game. Second half, things get insane. The Seahawks and Bucs combined for 53 points in the second half alone as we got the Baker versus Darnold shootout. Story to me, though, is Sam Darnold. Yes, they lost this game, but through 5 weeks, Sam Darnold's completing 73.1% of his passes. Sam Darnold is second in the NFL in QBR, third in passer rating. Sam Darnold is balling, and he has JSN with one of the most mind-blowing seasons I can remember on a per-route basis at wide receiver. Evan, what do you think of Seahawks' wild loss to the Bucs?
Yes, the anti-Sam Darnold terrorist cells continue to be down very bad as Sam Darnold is leading the NFL in yards per pass attempt.
Yeah.
I mean, this offense has just vastly exceeded, I think, anybody's greatest expectations. Jackson Smith and Jigba looks like a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL today. And, their running game, and Kenneth Walker had some nice runs in this game, but their running game has really, it hasn't really gotten on track yet. So they still have upside to go. I think untapped upside. Their passing game has been super explosive, even with everybody knowing that the ball is going to Jackson Smith and Jigba on like virtually every play.
Yeah, 4.14 yards per route run. I don't know what the record is, but I assume that's it. That is definitely.
If you cut that in half,
yeah,
he would have a really good yards per route run.
When Cooper Kupp had the greatest wide receiver season ever, he was at 3.12. Puka led the NFL last year at 3.56 for reference. The Walker versus Charbonnet stuff, man. I mean, Walker is just so much more explosive. And even on the success rate stuff, Kenneth Walker's been better this year. But Seahawks continue to really trust Zach Charbonnet in short yardage. Opportunities in this game were Walker 11, Charbonnet 10. I don't think the split's going to change. But if it is going to change, I think it's going to go towards more Walker, who, again, clearly more explosive and also leading Charbonnet in success rate this season. Let's go to the Tampa Bay Bucs. So, other side of this game, just so impressed by Baker Mayfield, like outperforming so often over the last 2 to 3 years, turning into a wide receiver kingmaker. In this game, Baker Mayfield goes off for 379 yards. He is now fantasy's number 5 quarterback in points per game, behind only Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Fields. So incredible season for Baker again so far. Evan, what do you think of Bucs win in Seattle?
Yeah, and I'd been critical of Baker Mayfield in the first couple of weeks. He was getting away with a lot of turnover-worthy plays, and the Buccaneers have won. I mean, they're 4-1. They've won their games by point margins of 3-1, 2, and 3. So, I mean, there's still reason to be skeptical. Baker Mayfield was unbelievable in this game, though. I mean, he's a baller, like no question. Emeka Egbuka is a baller. I mean, he is the running away favorite right now, I think, for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah. And this is another team that, not to the extent of Dallas, but a little bit like Dallas. I mean, they've been missing Mike Evans. Chris Godwin hasn't been anywhere near 100%. Bucky Irving is out. He's going to miss another game. They lost 2. They started the season without Tristan Wirfs. Now they're missing their starting right guard and right tackle. Baker Mayfield, I mean, they've been winning these games with some Baker, heroics. And, despite a lot of attrition around him. So I understand where the MVP discussion is coming from when it comes to Baker Mayfield at this point. I didn't think he was playing that well early in the season, but the dude was a baller, and he just lit up one of the best defenses in the league.
Evan mentioned Bucky Irving with the foot and shoulder stuff, expected to miss week 6 as well. When they rule someone out this early, I'm worried that it could even go beyond week 6, but he's definitely going to be out week 6. Rachaad White was the workhorse here. Snaps were Rachaad White 49, Sean Tucker 13, Josh Williams just 2. Opportunities were Rachaad White 18, Sean Tucker 6. I mean, it was a tough spot, and that's kind of a big reason why we preferred Rico to Rachaad White here. But you see Rachaad White, even in a toughish spot, got a ton of work and performed well. So I like Rachaad White a lot again here going forward as long as Bucky is out. Chris Godwin, dislocated ankle. I'm worried he'll just never be the same. And I know it's only been 2 games, but he's run 71 routes on 83 dropbacks in these 2 games since the return. And it's only resulted in 6 catches for 52 yards. And only 36% of Godwin's snaps have come in the slot. I don't really want to play him, I don't think, or be excited about playing him until he can get into the slot. Maybe that happens when Mike Evans returns.
I think it will.
And Sterling Shepard gets pushed off the field. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what will happen. When Evans comes back, it will be Godwin in the slot, Mike Evans at X, Emeka Egbuka at Z, And Emeka Egbuka, by the way, he wins downfield.
Yeah.
So we can forget about those scouting reports that we heard of about him coming out of Ohio State. He leads the NFL in passer rating when targeted, and he's averaging 2.5 yards per route run, by far most among all rookie receivers. Man, that's going to be a fun 3-receiver set when it gets healthy.
Oh, yeah.
And they did not place Mike Evans on IR, did they?
Correct. No.
Yeah, so he could be back this week or next.
Yeah. Last NFC team is the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels returns from the knee sprain here. Commanders get a really good win in LA over the Chargers, 27-10. In terms of Daniels' health, he was wearing the knee brace, but I thought he still looked really healthy. Only 15 of 26 throwing, but 231 yards on those 15 completions and that one touchdown. Only took 1 sack, ran 8 times for 39 yards. So, Evan, what do you think of Jaden Daniels' return here? Again, playing without Terry McLaurin.
I thought he looked all right. I mean, for his first game back, I'll take it. And then he's got the Bears coming up next, and what's going to be one of the highest total games of the week, and also a battle of what last year's number 1 and number 2 overall picks. So that's going to be a super hyped game, and I think that Jaden Daniels will be a confident fantasy start in Week 6 and hopefully going forward. The story here obviously is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, because Washington pulled out Chris Rodriguez essentially, and they gave the lead back job to Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and he took it and ran with it. He's averaging 6.6 yards per carry, leading the NFL in yards per carry this season. This is what he needed. I mean, he was really hard to use in fantasy in weeks 1 through 4, even this past week, technically going into the week, because he was getting like 9 touches a game.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden he gets, what did he have, 14? He had 16. I mean, that's great. Now he's a locked-in RB2 with RB1 upside.
Yeah, and the difference here to me was they controlled a lot of this game, and so they're able to get a lot of base carries. When they are behind, when they're in 2-minute, you're not going to see JCM out there. But the good thing, and we talked about this, can he separate from Chris Rodriguez? It's not that much of a hill to climb. He separated from Chris Rodriguez here and handled most of the base work. So clearly very exciting for JCM here. Also, no Deebo Samuel carries in this game. So, I think JCM has like the Brian Robinson role, and like maybe he can outperform in the Brian Robinson role also.
Definitely more dynamic.
Yeah.
He's got the Bears this week and the Cowboys next week.
Yep.
So the table is set for Bill to take a really big step forward the next 2 weeks.
Agreed. Deebo Samuel's balling, man. 11 targets here. No one else on the team had more than 2. And they said they're optimistic about Terry McLaurin's return. We'll see. But yeah, Deebo Samuel is like the focal point. And this was kind of the thesis of Deebo over the offseason. He is the perfect fit for the horizontal raid that Cliff is running, and he's executing it really, really well right now. I would consider Terry McLaurin questionable for Week 6 right now. Reminder, this show is brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. The NFL season is here, and there's no better way to get closer to the action than with DraftKings Daily Fantasy, the ultimate destination for football fans. Right now, our partners at DK are giving new customers a chance to play free for their share of millions in prizes with their first deposit on the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and enter promo code ETR or scan the QR code to play free for your share of millions with your first deposit. That's for new DraftKings customers. Just download the Daily Fantasy app for your free shot today. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. Minimum $5 deposit required. One single-use $3 ticket rewarded. Ticket rewards are site credits valid for use on eligible DraftKings contests. Ticket rewards expire 14 days after being issued. Ends on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. See terms at DraftKings.com/promotions. Sponsored by DraftKings. All right, before we get into the AFC, wanted to note Terrion Arnold now. We had the breaking news into the show. More breaking news into the show. Second opinion, not as bad as originally feared. Could be back in a month or so. So good news for Lions and Terrion Arnold. Let's go to the Baltimore Ravens. Not sure you guys are aware, but the Ravens are 1-4. Now, this was an impossible spot in week 5. No Lamar Jackson, no offensive line, no defense. Basically all second and third stringers facing a very good Texans defense. But man, they lost 44-10 at home. Lamar Jackson update. They're home against the Rams in week 6 and then a bye. I feel like maybe he wants to sit out through the bye, or they want him to sit out through the bye, but they could risk going to the bye at 1-5. So we'll see on Lamar Jackson. Evan, thoughts on Ravens getting embarrassed at home? Ravens backups getting embarrassed at home to the Texans.
I mean, the Ravens are fielding a team, like a freaking AAA team. I mean, they ran 40 offensive plays. 40 offensive plays in an NFL game is astounding. And they are to the point where they are already talking about going away from Cooper Rush to Tyler Huntley at quarterback. I mean, they are, they can't compete with the roster that they have currently, which is wild, because I think that a lot of smart people would have said that the Ravens had the best roster in the NFL entering the season. And with all the injuries that they've been hit with, it's like the worst right now.
And by the way, team success is important to Derrick Henry's fantasy production. You think of Derrick Henry as some incredible team carrying player. He's incredible. He can carry a team. But when a team is bad, it's bad for Derrick Henry because he does not play in passing situations. And obviously, if they're not around the goal line, if they're not around the red zone, Derrick Henry needs touchdowns and he's not getting them. And so, yeah, if the Ravens are going to be bad, and I'm not saying they're going to be bad all year, but if they're going to be bad, it's going to be tough for Derrick Henry. I have people asking me, Evan, should I trade Derrick Henry for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt? I mean, that's where we're at on the panic level for Derrick Henry right now. So
yeah, and I think that the Ravens, what they wanted to do in this game, and I think an indication of that was having Keaton Mitchell active, because Keaton Mitchell, despite not being a big guy, he's a first and second down back. He was not active in the first 4 games. They had him active for this game in case they needed him, but they just couldn't get first downs. That's why you end up with 40 offensive plays, and you can't run any kind of offense.
Let's go to the Buffalo Bills. Bills, Sunday night, home game, national TV, lose to Drake May and the Patriots. This was a very sloppy game for the Buffalo Bills. They turned it over 3 times. They committed 11 penalties. Patriots did a very good job on James Cook, and Bills sputtered a bit here. Evan, what do you think of Bills' loss to the Patriots?
Yeah, I didn't have a ton of glaring takeaways from this, other than Dalton Kincaid had another good game and is turning out to be one of the best value picks at tight end, despite not really separating himself as a true every down player. I mean, he's been coming through anyway. Keon Coleman was disciplined for the first quarter of this game, and he came back and he saw a lot of Christian Gonzalez, which, by the way, is a huge addition to the Patriots offense. Christian Gonzalez looked, he was back to his old self in this game. But yeah, I mean, the Patriots outplayed them, got the win on the road, huge win for them. The Bills are 4-1.
Yeah. Dalton Kincaid, only 24 routes on 40 Josh Allen dropbacks. That's been what it's been like all year. But again, at tight end, the bar is so low, and his target rate when he's been in there has been really good. And so, yeah, the Dalton Kincaid stuff, I'm not too worried about his route rate. Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir continue to run as the clear top 2 wide receivers. I was noting Elijah Moore was inactive for this game. That allowed Curtis Samuel to play a little bit more. Josh Palmer and Shavers rotating there as complementary pieces. But yeah, Coleman and Shakir to me are clearly the top 2 wide receivers.
I think what we're seeing from Dalton Kincaid is that when he's healthy, he can be a pretty big time tight end. He had his fair share of nicks and stuff in his first 2 seasons. But when he's healthy, he doesn't necessarily need every single route to deliver, because he's a naturally gifted receiving tight end.
Let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals. Another brutal game from Jake Browning here, this time home against the Lions. Now, he did go nuts, or was at least very productive in garbage time in this game. Jamar Chase ended up with a big day. T. Higgins caught a touchdown. Chase Brown even caught 7 balls. But it's clear that Jake Browning is even worse than I thought. And I thought Jake Browning would be able to sustain some production for this offense in the right matchups. It has not happened. On Monday, Zach Taylor was asked if Jake Browning will start in week 6. Zach Taylor said, we'll evaluate our options. So options, there aren't many, Evan. Jameis Winston would be the most fun one. Maybe Russell Wilson. Maybe the Panthers would part ways with Andy Dalton.
Guys that aren't even on the Bengals roster.
Yes. I mean, that's it. They don't have anything on their roster. So what do you think the Bengals are going to end up doing at quarterback? Any thoughts on their loss to the Lions?
I don't know, man. They just feel so screwed right now. They're also having internal stuff. Jamar Chase said, I wouldn't even say implicitly, I would say explicitly, Jamar Chase said that the Bengals are like tipping their hand on their offensive plays. Zach Taylor got asked about the predictability of his offense, had to say that he's not giving up play calling duties. I mean, they're in a world of hurt right now. Also, speaking of Terry and Arnold, all that production that Jake Browning essentially got in garbage time of this game, it all came after Terry and Arnold left that game.
Yeah. If it was up to Twitter, Jameis Winston would already be on the Bengals. I mean, the momentum for the Bengals to sign or trade for Jameis Winston is palpable among fans. Bengals fans want it. Fantasy bros want it. Doesn't seem like the Bengals want it, but we'll see. Hopefully. Let's go to the Browns. The Dylan Gabriel era is underway, Evan. They suffer a 21-17 loss in London to the Vikings. Dylan Gabriel got the ball out quick and short is kind of what I thought. 19 of 33, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Did not really run. Evan, what do you think of Dylan Gabriel's NFL debut?
Well, he had a 5.5-yard ADOT.
Yeah.
So the Browns were trying to keep him very comfortable, get the ball out quickly, throw short passes. David Njoku benefited. Harold Fannin caught a touchdown. But, you know, the story of this offense for the foreseeable future is going to continue to be Quinshad Judkins, who has another nice matchup coming up in week 6 against Pittsburgh. Quinshad Judkins over the last 3 weeks, touch counts of 19, 25, and 24.
Yeah.
He also had a long touchdown negated in this game due to penalty.
Yep.
I think that right now, and you know, I'm an Egbuka guy, you know, from start to finish. That's how I've been. But I think that Quinshad Judkins at 14-1 right now to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think that is very much a bettable bet.
I don't think that was not the price that I saw. I'll check it here right now. But one thing when we did the awards show, I was thinking, I don't know that the voters are going to vote for Judkins after the off-field domestic stuff that he was embattled in. That's my only hang up there. But I agree, he has been incredible. And there are a lot of people who laughed at the Browns for taking Quinshad Judkins ahead of Travion Henderson. Those people look really dumb now. I mean, the Browns look sharp for doing it. Yeah, you're right. Judkins is 12-1 right now on DK for offensive rookie.
I got it at 14-1.
Egbuka is the favorite. Egbuka is the favorite at minus 110. Last Browns note. I thought it was notable that with Cedric Tillman out, Isaiah Bond 31 of 36 routes and out-targeted Jerry Jeudy 7-5. So I don't think we're going to see it with Dylan Gabriel, Shadur Sanders or anything, but it's at least notable to me that Bond is in there in a full-time role and out-targeted Jerry Jeudy in this game. Let's go to the Denver Broncos. Broncos go to Philly, beat Jalen Hurts and the defending Super Bowl champions on the back of Nick Bonitto. Yes, that's right. Nick Bonitto, 2.5 more sacks, 3 quarterback hits. Now he's down to around 5-1 to be Defensive Player of the Year. Should be minus 500, but I digress. Evan, what'd you think of Broncos win in Philly?
It's so funny you said Nick Bonitto. Yes, that's right, Nick Bonitto. Yeah, I mean, he's on fire right now. He's got 7 sacks.
Yeah,
and
he's on pace to break the record.
And we need him to set the record.
Yep.
And he leads the league in quarterback pressures with 31.
Yep.
To me, the story of this game offensively for Denver was Cortland Sutton, who got the best of Quinyon Mitchell, which doesn't happen Cortland Sutton had like 80 receiving yards lined up directly in Quinyon Mitchell's coverage, and you don't see that. Quinyon Mitchell has been like a legit shutdown corner. He was as a rookie, and he's been so far this year. So shout out to Cortland Sutton, baller.
I was looking to see if we would get a sticky RJ Harvey role change here. We did not. In week 4, it was more series by series. In this game, J.K. Dobbins 39 snaps, and they went back to Tyler Bidet 19 snaps, RJ Harvey just 15. And so they were losing for a lot of this game. That's going to be better for Dobbins and better for Bidet and worse for Harvey. In games where they are winning, they will get more opportunities for series by series in base for RJ Harvey. But as of now, when they're passing a lot, it's just going to be a lot of Dobbins and Bidet. Last Broncos note, Troy Franklin continues to run ahead of Marvin Mims. Troy Franklin 34 routes, Marvin Mims just 19.
I also noticed that Pat Bryant played a lot in this game, but I think the Broncos see him as a blocking receiver. He's like a big presence. They used a 3rd-round pick on him. He played 40 snaps in this game. He had 0 targets.
Yeah.
So I think they value him for his blocking above all else.
Let's go to the Texans. Texans went to Baltimore, played the Ravens junior varsity squad, and smashed 44-10. When this is the way it goes for the Texans, protecting a big lead for the whole game, yeah, Nick Chubb, for now at least, is going to be ahead. He was up 11-7 on Woody Marks in carries at the time of Dameon Pierce's first carry, aka the time when the backups started coming in. So sadly, a quiet day for Woody Marks. Evan, any thoughts on that or anything else Texans related?
Texans are going on to their bye in week 6. But I will say, CJ Stroud balled out in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to, consider context anytime that a quarterback is going up against the Ravens right now, because the Ravens, as you say, junior varsity squad right now. I mean, it is good to see CJ Stroud playing at that level that we saw him play as a rookie, because we haven't seen that very much over the last year plus. And he did that. The Ravens are just so depleted. I mean, I think that they were missing they were missing their 6 highest paid players.
Yeah.
Plus a starting corner in Chidobe Awuzie in this game. I mean, they're just so depleted.
I mean, Nico Collins, if this game was close for any reason, Nico Collins was going to have 200 yards. They just had no answer for Nico whatsoever, but they weren't pushed, so is what it is. Colts, very easy win for the Colts, 40-6 at home over the Raiders. It was such a blowout that Anthony Richardson actually got into this game and threw 2 passes. Jonathan Taylor, 3 short touchdowns, but just as important to me, 4 targets on 29 Daniel Jones attempts for Jonathan Taylor. This role is just the best that Jonathan Taylor has ever had. Evan, what do you think of Colts' conquest of the Raiders?
Yeah, and the Colts right now, they should be 5-0. They would be 5-0 if they had used Ashton Doolin in the Alec Pierce role in week 4 or whatever it was instead of A.D. Mitchell. Yeah. And that's what they did in this game. And they went on to blow out the Raiders. They played Ashton Doolin a bunch. And I think that, I would expect that Alec Pierce had a setback late last week. So that's not, you never want to see that with a concussion. But I would suspect that he will be back against Arizona. But yeah, the Colts should be 5-0 right now.
Yeah, Doolin ran 27 routes in this game, 2 for A.D. Mitchell. So they went with the full benching almost of A.D. Mitchell off of his week 4 disaster. Remember in week 4, they gave Tyler Warren 2 goal line carries. In this game, Tyler Warren tried to throw it from the goal line. I mean, guys everywhere. Shout out Penn State on Tyler Warren. Home against Arizona next for the Colts. Another really, really good spot and really good chance for them to go to 5-1. Let's go to the Jaguars. What a win. What a night for the Jaguars on Monday Night Football. Knock off the Chiefs 31-28 on a crazy Trevor Lawrence fall down, get up, fall down, run for a touchdown. Jaguars are now 4-1. Only loss they have was oddly to the Jake Browning relief job in week 2. Evan, what do you think of Jaguars' big win over the Chiefs last night?
Huge. I mean, really nice to see Trevor Lawrence play at a pretty high level. I mean, he was getting ripped on social media, I saw, in the first half. But he wound up having a thrilling comeback victory in prime time. Brian Thomas is maybe sort of starting to get it together a little bit. Travis Hunter had an unbelievable catch in double coverage, still not playing full-time snaps on offense. Brenton Strange suffered a scary-looking non-contact hip injury. That's not something that you see very often.
Yeah, worried on Strange. And they have like Johnny Munt and Hunter Long as backups to Brenton Strange. And so you'll start to see us give more targets to running back to wide receiver. They won't be earning quite as many targets as Brenton Strange. Yeah, I was actually encouraged by the Travis Hunter stuff. 39 of 58 snaps on offense, 25 of 64 snaps on defense. But more importantly to me, Travis Hunter ran more routes than De'Ami Brown. Parker Washington didn't play very much, and only 3 targets for De'Ami Brown. But they were impressive, play down the field there for Travis Hunter on that one play. So I thought an encouraging game for him. Running back, Bashal Tutin, Evan, now has 7 or fewer touches in 4 of his 5 games this season. They continue to play Lakeem Allen more than I want them to. Snaps here were 34 for ETN, 13 for Allen, only 12 for Bashal Tutin. Are you worried that Tutin isn't going to get his chance anytime soon here for the Jags?
No, because I just know that he's like a talented stash on my bench in season long.
Yeah.
And that's just how I'm kind of treating him for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So, things change very quickly in the NFL. Travis Etienne could get hurt, and all of a sudden Bashal Tutin is like, the hottest dude in fantasy. That's not somebody that you want to drop. I mean, he's got too much potential. The Jaguars' offensive line is playing too well. They have been elite in pass protection. Brenton Strange is going to be a little hit to their run blocking. He's been one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. I love to see Trevor Lawrence run in this game. That was one of the theses but behind me having Trevor Lawrence above ADP is that I thought that he was going to run more, and he did in this game. I really hope that he can keep that up. He had 10 runs for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, the touchdowns are going to be fluky and volatile week to week, but he is a player that is capable for running for 30 yards a game.
For anyone that has DraftKit Pro, be sure to consult Daigle's 1 injury away list. Like, keeps a running list of how to rank guys to stash on your bench that are 1 injury away, and you can obviously find Bashal Tutin in there as a 1 injury away guy at this point.
One more little note: Eli Manning during the Manning cast mentioned that in their pre-production meeting, he was talking to Liam Cohen, and Liam Cohen told Eli Manning that Travis Hunter at the University of Colorado never practiced on offense. He would always practice on defense, never practice on offense, and won the Bolitnikoff Award as the best wide receiver in college football. So the arrow is just going to continue to teeter up on Travis Hunter as he learns how to become a wide receiver, even after winning the Bolitnikoff Award and being the number 2 pick in the draft.
Let's go to the other side of that game. The Kansas City Chiefs, they lose despite another big rushing day night from Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is now on pace to rush for 646 yards and 10 touchdowns. His previous career high is 389 and 4. Now, the thesis is that the assumption is that once Rashee Rice gets back and they have all their weapons out there, Patrick Mahomes won't be forced to run as much. But as it stands right now, he is incredibly valuable in fantasy because not only is he obviously efficient as a touchdown thrower, and they throw so much, because he's running also. Evan, any thoughts on Mahomes last night or Chiefs thoughts from the game?
Yeah, historically, Patrick Mahomes has not been a runner during the regular season. Then he would turn that on, down the stretch and in the playoffs. But we're seeing, from the get-go this year, he's been running the ball, and that has been massive for his fantasy value. We are just all right, so we're entering week 6. Week 7 is when Rashee Rice will be eligible to return. All of a sudden, we got a full deck at wide receiver. I know that the Chiefs, from a real-life standpoint, they've been a little disappointing, but the offense is the offense can start cooking real soon.
Rashee Rice, I'll say it for like the 5th straight week, is like the best buy low you can possibly get. It's going to be harder to get him now. If someone's been holding him for this long, it's going to be very difficult, but I'm so confident Rashee Rice is going to be productive, extremely productive upon his return here. The other question from last night was Brashard Smith. How much would he play? There was a lot of buzz. They were talking him up in the media. Brashard Smith ended up playing 6 snaps in this game. Isaiah Pacheco, 40. Kareem Hunt, 21. I thought Pacheco looked better last night. However, Kareem Hunt remains the guy they trust around the goal line. Kareem Hunt now has 4 carries from inside the 5-yard line this season. Isaiah Pacheco has 0.
Yeah, I think that they're going to continue to do a real slow ramp up with Brashard Smith. You could see the juice that he brings when he gets the ball.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a real slow ramp up.
I was actually encouraged that Brashard Smith was in the game. He only played 6 snaps. One of those snaps, there was like just over 2 minutes left, and the Chiefs were going down the field for like a game-winning drive, and Brashard Smith was in the game. They threw it to him, and like that shows a lot of faith and confidence to have him in there in that spot. Monday Night Football, 2 minutes left.
For a
7th-round rookie. So, it's a good sign there, I thought, but still, only 6 snaps. Let's go to the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders went to Indy and got absolutely wrecked, only scored 6 points. We are 5 games into the season now, and Geno Smith has a passer rating of 75.6. He's been at 92 or higher in 5 straight years. Geno Smith is playing the worst I've seen him play in a really, like going back to the Jets days, like really bad. I don't really know what's going on with Geno Smith. They had to kind of bench Dante Thornton. Bowers hasn't been out there. I get that stuff doesn't help, but man, it looks bad for Geno right now. Evan, what do you think of him rest of season, and any thoughts on Raiders game against the Colts?
No Colton Miller.
Yeah.
Learning a new offense. I mean, it's been a disaster. And the Geno Smith haters, they were kind of quiet for the last couple of years. They are out with the pitchforks now. The pitchforks. So Geno Smith, even Pete Carroll admitted that he thought about benching Geno Smith in this game for Kenny Pickett. So that tells you, like, Geno Smith struggles again. They've got Tennessee next. Jeffrey Simmons has been on fire. The Raiders have no offensive line. Could we see Kenny Pickett enter the game? Like, Geno Smith not even playable in 2 quarterback leagues at this point.
The Brock Bowers stuff. I came on here last week and begged the Raiders to either sit him out or put him on the injury report. Clearly Brock Bowers was not playing healthy. This week, it turned out they reveal PCL injury and a bone bruise in his knee. They're calling him week to week. They have a week 8 bye. It's possible that Brock Bowers sits out week 5, week 6, week 7, gets the bye. But on the other hand, he says he wants to play through it. Season is circling the drain, so we'll see on Brock Bowers, but it's certainly not good right now. My last Raiders note. So they got smashed here. Genti ran 17 routes. Raheem Mostert ran 20. I want them to raise Ashton Genti to full-time routes. Now, some of that was blowout related, but still, Geno Smith dropped back 41 times, and Genti only ran 17 routes. That remains a concern for me when he's playing for such a bad team, but I thought he looked great as a runner again in this game.
Yep. I mean, he did finish with 5 catches.
Yep.
On 7 targets. And in the first half, before the blowout really, set in, he played 90% of the Raiders' offensive snaps in the first half. So yep. I thought it was fairly encouraging. It's just the environment around him is just so freaking brutal. And this Colton Miller injury, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be like an 8-week injury.
Let's go to the Jets. Jets fall to 0-5. They were down 23-3 to the Cowboys at halftime of this game. Justin Fields looked inept. He had like 4 or 5 DraftKings points at halftime. Now, in the second half, garbage time, he ends up smashing, being a great play. That's kind of this part of the thesis, though, with Justin Fields. But anyways, 2 big stories to me in terms of role changes. First, Breece Hall without Braylon Allen. As expected, Breece Hall was a smash. 14 carries, 113 yards, plus 4 catches for 42 yards. Again, Justin Fields' running back throw rate is way higher than normal rushing quarterbacks. And the other note was Mason Taylor bringing out here again. So, yeah, Evan, any thoughts on no Braylon Allen, first look, and Mason Taylor for the Jets?
Yeah, Mason Taylor, over the last 2 weeks, he has a 27% target share. They have made it a point to try to get him the ball. He's the number 2 option in the passing game now, the clear number 2 option behind Garrett Wilson. With Justin Fields, so he's played in 3 fourth quarters, the fourth quarter of 3 games so far this year. And in those games, in those quarters combined, that's obviously 75% of a game. He has 250 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. He kills it in garbage time. When you're starting Justin Fields in fantasy, just don't look at the game. Certainly don't watch it. Don't look at the box score. That's what you have to do with Justin Fields. Turn it on in the fourth quarter, actually. Just turn it on in the fourth quarter because that's when he's going to get it done. Garrett Wilson scored his touchdown in the fourth quarter of this game. The Jets defense is horrible. Yeah. My betting week did not go very well this week. I thought that the Jets would actually be able to beat the Cowboys. They obviously did not. Their defense is such a huge problem. I think that actually could be good news for Justin Fields going forward. I don't know if you want to use him against Denver this week, however.
Yeah.
The biggest disappointment for me has been the pass protection for the Jets because the Jets, they don't have any injuries on their offensive line. Obviously, they lost Elijah Tucker before the season, but their starting 5 has been intact. This year, they've got first-round picks at both tackle spots. They gave up 5 sacks and 14 hits to the Cowboys. The Cowboys haven't been able to rush the passer all year long. And now I know that Justin Fields holding on to the ball absolutely contributed to a lot of that pass rush production, but that's not good. Against one of the weakest pass rushes in football.
Yeah, I would not play Justin Fields against the Broncos, but after that, Panthers and Bengals are the next 2 games for the Jets. And so I wouldn't be dropping Justin Fields even if you don't want to start him here against the Broncos, as I don't. Do you have a take between Mason Taylor or Darren Waller off the wire, Evan? I'm sure that's going to be a popular question for people, Mason Taylor or Darren Waller as a better pickup.
I think I'd go with Darren Waller by a little bit.
Yeah. More likely to score touchdowns for sure is Darren Waller. And yeah, I think I agree. Let's go to Steelers. Steelers will come out of their bye to host the Browns in week 6. We are expecting Jaylen Warren back from the knee injury that caused him to be a late scratch in week 4. Evan, any take for you on Gainwell versus Warren now that Warren's coming back, and any other Steelers thoughts as they come out of their bye?
Even as a Jaylen Warren guy this year, and he's been good in fantasy, he's averaging like almost 15 PPR points per game. I think that Kenneth Gainwell earned it. I think that Kenneth Gainwell earned a significant share of the backfield with that awesome game that he had in Dublin or London or wherever. I don't know, somewhere in Europe. He had a big game, and he was one of the best running backs in the league in that particular week. So I think he earned it. I think that maybe a 60-40 split and with potential to get to 50-50.
Yep. Yeah, it sucks for him to – it sucks, but it's been variant, and like it's going to be a tough projection here because we never know exactly what Arthur Smith is going to do. My lean would be we're still go back to Jaylen Warren as ahead of Kenny Gainwell, but we'll see. Titans, last team we're going to do here today. A win for the Titans. First win of Cam Ward's career. Yes, it took an utter collapse from the Cardinals. It took a Murray DeMarcado blowing the game, but a win is a win. Biggest thing to me was Calvin Ridley coming alive. 34 routes here for Calvin Ridley despite the injuries, and he finally puts a big game in the box score. Evan, what do you think of Cam Ward and the Titans getting their first win over the Cardinals?
Well, the Cardinals' pass defense has been really depleted, especially in the secondary lately, but I don't want to take away anything. Cam Ward turned it on big time in the second half of this game. In the final 2 quarters, Cam Ward went 15 of 24 for 207 yards. That is crazy production. He can make some insane throws, man. He's got incredible arm talent. Obviously, he's not been able to showcase that so far, learning the offensive line that has been a huge disappointment, no consistency in the running game. Calvin Ridley not really showing up until week 5. A 4th-round rookie. We like Alec Ayumanor, but he's a 4th-round rookie starting in the NFL at wide receiver. That never happens. But man, the arm talent on Cam Ward is really, really impressive.
I wanted to note this take from Dan Orlovsky, and I get it. He's an ESPN, hot take artist, whatever. I normally don't put too much stock in this.
He's a good analyst.
I like Dan Orlovsky, and he played quarterback in the NFL for 12 years. And here's what he said. Cam Ward's tape is incredible. He's better than we thought. If Titans do right, with Cam Ward and around him, he will be a top 8 player at the quarterback position easily. So that was Dan Orlovsky's take on Cam Ward. We haven't been able to see it because of the situation, and maybe we'll never see it because of the Titans situation. But yeah, he certainly has fans. Does Cam Ward? Tajay Spears came back here, played 17 snaps versus 49 for Tony Pollard. Spears only had 4 carries, no targets. After the game, Brian Callahan said that Tajay Spears' role will grow. So it's been tough for Tony Pollard, and he's going to start feeling heat from Tajay Spears, especially on pass downs here. So yeah, not ideal, I think, right now for the Pollard stuff. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of the Team by Team Breakdown. If you're watching this on YouTube, as you should be, do us a favor and hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to us and allows us to keep making shows like this for free. For Evan, producer Ryan, producer Luke, I'm Adam. Good luck, everybody.